enjoying every single day of preparing the team, working with the team, traveling, and learned an incredible amount of lessons. And now, in any game that we play, I'm like, there's not the pressure on me that was ever on me for that gold medal game. So I'm even more relaxed, and I'm like, oh, we missed a basket, no big deal. All right. Somebody gets a foul, all right, let's keep it going. So it really helped me grow, I think, as a coach.
Wow.
I'll do shorter answers. Okay.
No, that's wonderful and really, really inspiring. I think I need to take up coaching because if it would decrease my stress, that would be great. So different leaders have different styles, and that's something that has to be a very personal decision. How would you describe your leadership style?
Well, I think that we are all products of our genetics and products of our environment. And I'm the oldest of 5 children. Both of my parents were teachers. My mom is still alive. My dad has passed away, but I think I really approach things as a teacher. So I think basketball is just my medium. Whatever you're in. If I was in something else, in fact, I thought I was going to go to law school. I majored in sociology. I went to Indiana University. Anyone from Indiana here? No. It's a great basketball state. Yep, great basketball state. I went to Indiana University. I majored in sociology, and I planned to go to law school, but I wanted to take a year off. I didn't want to go to graduate school right away or law school right away. So I traveled. I crew. I like to sail. I was crewing on a boat it was in South Carolina, and then I stayed in the South for a while. And then conveniently around Christmas, I ran out of money. So I went home, and my parents were really excited. I was home for the holidays. And then about the middle of January, my dad was like, well, what are you doing home? I'm like, well, hanging out. He goes, well, no, that's not working. You got to get a job. And I'm like, job? I wasn't ready for that, and he just said, well, then you have to go help coach your sister's team. And I'm like, my sister had just lost 99-11 the night before. This is true. So I said, all right, it was either that or the street. And again, Buffalo was cold in January, so I said, all right, I'll do this. And I just really became very passionate about this. I really enjoyed, coaching my sister's team, but I realized I wanted to coach at a higher level, coach at a college level, and so I kind of got that pathway going. But it's just I don't know, just a preparation, all the different things that go into getting you ready for your field and not being afraid. I think that was part of it. I kept saying, I'm not coming home.
But one of the things you sometimes hear from people is the leaders who are really good at delegating and will just sit back and grit their teeth and hope that the people who report to them can do a good job of it, and others who tend to lead by being right in there all the time. Where would you put yourself in that?
Kind of the leadership stuff, again, I think it relates to being a teacher, kind of getting it from my parents. But I had watched Indiana men's basketball for Coach Knight was a very famous basketball coach, and I'd watched it. And so in some ways, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew what I didn't want to be. And I worked for different people, and I'm kind of a copier. I don't always know. I'll watch and I'll learn from people how to do things and how not to do things. And again, I get a lot from my parents, so I would say the leadership style comes from my parents. My parents they're very, I think, direct. They're very patient people and encouraging and positive people. And so I think my leadership style, I learned it, and you are who you are, but I learn from different people that I'm around, and I watch what works, and I watch what doesn't work. So a lot of times for me as a coach, I would go watch different practices, different men's coaches, women's coaches, different sports, and that's something at Stanford. I watch a lot of different sports and talk to a lot of coaches. Bill Walsh was one of the top coaches, a football coach here that I spent time with, and any number of different people. So I think that, I don't know how exactly to describe the style. I have a vision for how I want our team to play, and once I think that, with our team, I've watched a lot of practices. I feel knowledgeable about my medium of basketball, and I kind of keep in mind and what I wanted to get to with coaching. One of the first things that I learned, with coaching my sister, I would come home and my mother would say, well, my sister's name was Marie, and she was not into basketball in the way that I'm into basketball. She played it casually. And my mother would say, well, how come Marie didn't play more? And I'd be like, well, Mom, Marie can't dribble. She can't shoot. She can't stop anyone from scoring her. But my mom would be, but she's so nice. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, that's your daughter, and this is my sister. I love her, but, I've got to play the people that can produce, But I also learned from my parents and that experience that everyone on that team is someone's sister, is someone's daughter. And I think that, a lot of times you get in situations as whether it's a leader or a coach, and you're so focused on winning, and people are mistreated. And I really feel that sometimes when I get upset with a player or an assistant coach, I go back to that first experience of, this is someone else's sister or this is someone else's daughter, and just to say, wait, all right, time out, I'm going to back up, because trust me, kids on the team do some real knucklehead things, and you're like, uh-oh, this isn't going to work. You have to deal with things. So, but to remember that. And so I think my leadership style is maybe trying to be compassionate or understanding, but at the same time being direct in that, we want to beat Tennessee. We want to beat Connecticut. We want to win the Pac-10. We want to win a national championship. So, we've got to be really on the same page all the time.
Probably all of the people here are going to be in leadership positions that equate to being a coach. Mm-hmm. And probably few of them will be doing that in sports. They'll be doing it in other venues, be it academia or law, mm-hmm. or business. What do you do as a leader of a sports team that you think people in other arenas don't know, and they don't even think about doing it, that works so well, and you'd say, you should try this? For me, for example,
right.
as leader of a lab group, a
mm-hmm.
research team of 15 people, should I be making them do wind sprints up and down the lab, or?
Some might need it. Well, as and John and I talked a little bit, basketball is just my medium, so whatever, your medium is, I think there are a lot of things that do carry over. And what I find is that when I speak at business or academic situations, there are a lot of very dysfunctional, quote, families, business families, sports families, lab families. I mean, whether it's anytime you have 15, 20, 200, all, these different people that you are either managing or in some way coaching, there's going to be things that come up. And I think that, some really basic things apply, and it sounds very simplistic, but I take a lot of things that my parents taught me, and that, again, I grew up a little bit, Leave It to Beaver, for those of you that are old enough to know that show, but, treating people how you want to be treated, because, again, you might be the head coach, or I'm the head coach, or you're in charge of the lab, and making sure that the people on your team treat others and are respectful and treat each others well. And I find that that's a big problem on teams, is that a lot of times it's not the team you're playing, it's in your own room that people are divisive, that things come apart on the inside, as opposed to playing the opposite team. We play teams where our players will come over and they'll say, it's happening, and I'll say, yep. How do you know? They're yelling at each other, they're at each other, it's not us beating them as much as they don't want to play hard for each other. So I think keeping people on the same page, getting people working together and treating each other well. Again, this is just a little thing, but with our team, and my mom would say, if you don't have something good to say about someone, then don't say anything. A lot of what people, the behind the back, the clickiness and all that, it's a real thing, and it's more so for adults even than sometimes than young kids. But I think that the cohesiveness of a team far outweighs the talent of a team. If you might have a very talented, we play teams constantly. We played in the Final Four this year, and we were playing Oklahoma, and they had a really quick point guard who wanted to come to Stanford, who was a great kid. She's really super athletic, could go by everybody. They had another guard who's super athletic, great shooter, and they said to me, now who's going to guard Danielle Robinson? I said, Jeanette, and they're like, oh my gosh, you think she can guard her? I was like, well, this is the best we've got. And then who's going to guard Stevenson? I'm like, Roz. And sure enough, they did a great job, but it's not that they did it individually, they do it collectively. And that's something that a lot of people think, well, it's all about talent, and I would disagree. We do not win on pure talent. We win on maximizing, I call it maximizing your strengths and minimizing your weaknesses. When you're working with people, you might be our best point guard. Well, then I don't have your number one job being a rebounder. But you might be our best rebounder, so you rebound, you bring it up the court, do what you're good at, and then try to expand your skill set, but making people look good and not putting them in embarrassing situations.
On every team, there's always a range of talent and a range of enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. How do you inspire and motivate the people who are, probably not the word, I'm sure it's not the word you would use, but is colloquially used, the bench warmers, the people who aren't the first string? How do you keep them coming and getting excited when they're just going to be sitting there almost the whole game?
I think that's a really a good question, and people are going to contribute different ways. I really try to I try to point out the contributions of everyone on our team. And one thing that did happen, we had a national championship team. We won a national championship in 1990 and 1992. And on our 1990 team, there was a young lady who, forget bench warmer, she was like hugging the water cooler. She was so far down the bench. She was like, never got in the game. And I asked her, I said, now, her name was Angela. I said, Angela, she walked on our team. I said, Angela, if there's like 15 seconds left or 30 seconds left, do you still want to go in the game? A lot of kids would be like, I got my shoes off, forget it. I'm not going in, forget it. And she said, put me in anytime. So this particular year in 1990, I also asked everyone on our team on a little index card, I said, tell me what your role is on this team. And this team went on to win a national championship. It was the first time we'd ever done it at Stanford. And she wrote as her role, spread sunshine. So here is our, by far, last person who got in the very least. And her attitude was that, she felt valued and she was going to spread sunshine with the other players. So fast forward 2 years. She was a freshman that year. In her junior year, we were in a situation where we were playing in the national semifinal game. We were playing a team called, Virginia, which had a great player. Her name was Dawn Staley. Dawn had gone on to play in 3 Olympics. She was a 3-time All-American. She carried the U.S. flag in Greece when we were at the Olympics. She's just a phenomenal player. Well, it was a 1-point game. We were winning by 1, and there was 0.7 seconds left on the clock. And